Welcome back, Bronco Nation, to another episode of Blue Turf Talk, a Blue Vision production. My name is Nick Wade, your host. My co-host is Sam Gillette with Sam Talk Sports. And today we are joined by a very special guest. As you know, in 2026, Boise State is entering a new era of the Pac-12. And that means that recruiting is especially very important, like it hasn't been before. We're going into a new slate, and Boise State, I'm sure, wants to dominate this new conference. So picking up recruits and quality recruits is very important. So today we are joined by the class of 26 quarterback, Jackson Taylor. How's it going, Jackson? Thanks for joining us.
What's going on? I'm excited to be here. Let's go.
Right on. So thank you for helping us out with the article that we had on BroncoNationUpdates.com. Really thoughtful answers to that question sheet. And it really gave us a lot of information so that we could get that to Bronco Nation so they could get to know you better. And now we're going to dive more into, we'll touch on more of the personal stuff again, but we'll tackle some of the on-field things that you got going on for you. So we're gonna start with the personal background. You had an early love for football. So Jackson, tell us where you're from, a little about your family and your early love for football.
Yeah, so I'm from Thousand Oaks, California, down in SoCal. In terms of my family, I live with my parents, my mom and dad, mom Beth, dad Troy, and my brother Ethan is 26 and he's out of college, as well as my sister Alyssa, who is 33 and now has my niece and nephew, who are adorable and absolutely amazing. I'm an uncle now. It's been a blessing, and it's been, everything that comes with being an uncle, which is, a little bit of stress too. Hey, it's fun. But no, it's awesome. And yeah, in terms of football has just been my whole life. Growing up early, I just watched with my dad. It was something he'd been doing his whole life, and he started that culture with me, and my mom as well. Started as big Titans fans. And, as a little kid, I'd like to root against them because they weren't very good when I was a little kid. Or, not that they're amazing right now. We're getting there. But, yeah, I would watch the games with my dad, and that really just got me hooked on everything about football and just kind of skyrocketed from there.
So, we read your journey in the article where it started out, when, with that dream starts out on the field and started with your recess games at flag football. So walk us through like how that dream became like serious and like, with the production that came with that dream. And now you're just 1 year away from playing on the iconic blue.
Oh yeah. So my parents are always, hammered on me to continue to do things I love and to pursue them. And, as I play football, even at recess with my friends or whatever it was, played flag football before I got into tackle. I just knew I loved it, and it was just fun. And that's what a game is. It's fun. You get to have a great time while you're playing it. So that was what really excited me about it. And, I kind of found that I was athletic. I was naturally, athletic. A lot of that comes from both sides of my family. With my mom being a dancer, my dad also doing several sports with football and track. So I just continued to pursue it, and, got to flag football. I had my dad as my coach for 1 year. Some other really just fun, inspiring coaches. And when my mom was comfortable with me getting on the field and putting some pads on, we got into tackle in 7th grade and just kept going. So it's been my whole life, and I'm excited to keep pursuing it because it's been something that's just impacted me for so long.
So from the fields at recess to your youth ball with Agora to Oaks Christian to Thousand Oaks, you've been on this incredible journey of football that started as you were younger. What's been some of your defining aha moments as a quarterback, and when did you know, you know what? I can play at the next level. I can do this. When was that moment?
I think there have been a couple in my life, and I think the first was the one that really showed me, how I throw a football, because every quarterback's got their throw motion. And when I started to find what was starting to be really consistent and, get the ball flying out of my hand a little bit, I just like my eyes lit up, my heart lit up. I was like, dude, this is how you do it. This makes sense. And I think that happened at probably around in middle school as I got more comfortable into tackle a couple years in. It didn't happen right away. I would always mess around with it. My coach, Danny Hernandez, has done a really good job. And he's done a really good job helping me find what works for me. So that was the big one. And then getting into high school and more having a starting role as a sophomore originally and then a junior, I started to really understand, conceptually how to process information as a quarterback, which is quarterbacking at the next level. And I started to understand really what the goal of each play was and how to, put myself in a position to make that happen and to be process driven and purposeful with everything I'm doing. And once I started to really feel that I'm doing that and I'm no longer just playing, Madden football, we were looking at who's open across the field. And like, I'm really starting to be purposeful with everything. I started to see how it feels like this is developing to be a long-term thing. So.
Would you care to expand on your pro style with your surprising athleticism play style?
Yeah. So my whole life, I played a few sports in my life, and I first played basketball. That was my thing. I wanted to be a hooper. That's what I wanted to do. And, I realized I wasn't going to be 6'8", and I wasn't going to, fly out of the gym from, just jumping in these tennis shoes. But I did develop a lot of things from those sports, also track that I'm still doing. But I like to be able to run the ball a little bit. And you don't get a lot of that on my film. And I think partially because we had such a talented running back both years that I was a starter, but especially last year. His name is Justin Lewis, and sucks to lose him to Mater Dei, the number one school in the country this coming year. But I think that just says how talented he was and still is. So, there really wasn't a need for that. And I was the only quarterback on my team, like at all, only one named QB, like not even a backup last year. So we were really trying to protect everything. But I think once we get going this year, and there's going to be a little bit more of that this year, we'll be able to, get the ball out in the open field sometimes. That'd be fun.
Do you have a rushing goal you want to try and hit this year?
I'm always a pass first guy, but I would love to get out more, and I want to, get some points with my legs and make some guys miss, make a guy fall down. Hey, that sounds fun to me, right?
Right.
Ball's about. So, I just like to see more of that. And because I've trained speed my whole life and I've worked to get faster, and I want to put that, on the film too. So I think there'll be more of that.
Good deal.
So we're going to dive into that adversity. You talked about you're losing one of your weapons, right? Every quarterback faces adversity at every level. What have been some of yours, and how have they shaped you to take on like an adversity where you're losing a weapon on your team?
I think in my life, I've always been a little bit of I don't want to say counted out, but I've been a little bit overlooked in my life. And it's hard to say that because, here we are right now, and, I'm excited to go play at Boise State. It's been such a blessing. But at the same time, I blew up in my recruiting process pretty early. And with that came a lot of expectations, because it was like, you get offers early. What does this kid have that others don't? And, I feel like a lot of that for me is mental, and how I process things and how I deal with things mentally. But then, as guys start to grow up and, you get these bigger guys, you get these 6'5" guys who can jump out the gym and do all these kinds of amazing things that it seems like you can't do on paper. You start to get, a lot of either these schools or coaches or whatever it is start kind of going after those guys and saying, putting me a little bit to the side. And not that that's like a down on myself moment, because even being here in any way, shape, or form, to play college football is such a blessing, and it's so hard to do at any level. But that's kind of just how my life has been. And I've been a backup before, and I've had to go win a starting job, and I've had people take the more, on paper, seemingly better guy. And I've had to do a lot of work, behind the scenes to fix that and make up for that. So I think that's kind of been my thing in my life. And I think it's happened a lot more in the high school level as guys start to become bigger, better. But, I'd like to say I'm doing the same thing. Just it's whether God gives me 6'1", 6'2", and other guys, other heights, for me, it becomes all the things you can't do, all the intangibles.
Well, I mean, if you know anything about Boise State, and even Bronco Nation, we got a chip on our shoulder. We're counted down and out many times, even our quarterbacks. So this perfect spot, perfect position for somebody who knows, who has confidence, but also you can't have that chip, a positive chip, because just like Bronco Nation, we want to prove the nation wrong. The iconic blue is a destination, and we're fighting just like everybody else for a national championship. So I'm big on mental intelligence and emotional intelligence. So I was watching a lot of your reels, and saw a lot of big moments, a lot of big plays. How do you mentally prepare for your big moments on the field?
I think the biggest thing, and for anybody, is understanding what is really important to you. And to me, football is amazing, and it is my life, and I want it to be my life for as long as humanly possible. But there's always things bigger than football. Someone always has something that's bigger to them for football. And whether it's like, as, surface as money, or if it's as big as like something spiritual, everyone has that thing. And for me, it's a spiritual thing. And with my faith, and I'm a big believer in Jesus, who's my savior. And I believe football can be my platform to use what he's given me in my life for the purpose he has for me. And while on the field, I can be, throwing touchdowns or doing whatever it is. At the same time, it's also letting people know about him. And that's a big thing. You can go through a whole different thing on that. But at the same time, on the surface, football gives you eyes, and it's a big thing. And it helps that it's really freaking fun. So I love that. And that's why I want to pursue it at such a high level, as high as I can. But when it comes to those individual moments, it's just remembering that no moment is too big, because there's always, life is so much bigger than a sport and a game we get to play for fun, that people watch us play for fun. And I think when you know that, those things start to come naturally. And that's what's started to happen in my life, even just in high school, and what I think will continue to as I continue to go on. So
I love that. Well, hey, Sam, why don't you give us the stats on this young man? And
So junior season, 213 for 354, 2,939 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but that's contested. 51 rushes for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's not bad, considering you had a running back good enough to go play for the #1 team in the country. It was a slight drop-off in touchdowns from your sophomore year, but hey, whenever you have a running game like you had, it's not that bad. Overall, 373 for 637, 5,500 yards, 54 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 95 rushes for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. I know quarterbacks that would kill for those stats. so it's where do you see your biggest improvement needs to come by?
I think the biggest thing for me is going to be continue. So I've had moments in my career where it's been like, that like you did everything you're supposed to do on that play 100% from pre-snap to understanding what you're seeing to understanding how it changes, with the defense and everything and what your decision-making has to be. And even sometimes when you do that and you do all that stuff right and you give your team the best chance to succeed, sometimes on the stat sheet that's an incompletion, because you had best thing you can do is throw a 50-50 ball, and the 50-50 ball is 50-50, and you don't always win those. So I think it's now having the most moments of that as I can, where I know I did everything I'm coached to do at the highest level I can, and I put the ball where it needs to be. And I think once that happens at the most consistent rate possible, the stats are going to be the best they've been. And I've seen that so far in spring practice and getting into summer, that's been at the highest level it's been for me. And there's still so much growth to do. And I know once you get to college, it's a whole new world, and that changes a whole other perspective, which I'm really excited for, because that's a whole, another level to unlock. But to be able to do that, the best I can in high school, I think you're going to see that's what leads to the stat sheet being better in every category. And I think this has potential to be, an undeniable best year that I've had, God willing. But I think I've been coached really well, and I have really good coaches this year, and just going and executing that as often as possible, it'll fix all that. So I'm excited.
Are you going to try and crack 3,000 yards this year?
I think we got a good chance.
Yeah.
Losing that running back helps with throwing the ball a little bit more. So ball's going to be in the air, and we're going fast pace, high tempo. We're gonna get going. So I think there's a really, really solid chance.
You were 402 yards away your sophomore year and 61 yards away your junior year. So
we're getting there.
Getting closer. So you've already committed to Boise State. What keeps you driven to continue to improve on your play style to progress your game to that next level that you need to be at?
What I love about now being finally committed and all this done is I can be 100% dedicated to my guys this year at Thousand Oaks, and I can make sure I'm the best version of myself for them, and that, by doing that, we have a successful year, and that'll only prepare me more for when I get here, when I get to Boise. So I think it's also a motivator that, Boise State we have a really good quarterback room. Everybody is there for a reason, and everybody works their butt off in that room. And, I wouldn't be there if I didn't trust what I do myself, but I know that we have really good quarterbacks beyond Maddox and Caleb and Max and everybody there. Like, we have some really talented quarterbacks. So I have to be the best version of myself to get in there and be prepared to go make an impact as early as I can. And I'm dead set on doing that this season, preparing for when I get there.
So how much do you pay attention to the ratings for you? Like right now on 24/7, they've got you rated at an 87 and a 3-star, the 43rd quarterback, the 69th player out of California. And then you look at the composite, they've got you 736 in the nation. Do you pay attention to those numbers while you're playing, or is that just kind of a back burner? You look at it every now and then keep going?
I mean, I'm aware of them. So, I'll make sure I know them, and, I'll always check in. But football so much deeper than that. And there have been guys there's evidence every single year of guys at all levels that were rated very high and were very successful, but were also not even considered to be rated and are even more successful. So I know that doesn't determine anything, but I'm at least aware of them because it's always fun. Always fun to pay attention and see what's going on. But
yeah, good deal.
Yeah, so let's pivot. So as a lot of people know, at Boise State, it's got a unique culture, a brotherhood. So, you had other offers, but you waited for Boise. What made this program the right one for you?
I think everything about what Boise stands for is everything that my family stands for. And it's so much deeper than just, Coach D is a very open Christian, and that's great, but it is so much deeper than, a set of beliefs that we agree on. But it's what everybody on that staff, starting from Coach D, down to the whole staff, down to the team, to everybody who's involved with that program, that their values are 100% set on being the best version of themselves and to putting the best product they can out on the field. And a lot of programs say that, and there are really great programs out there. It's nothing to do with them. But when I was there on the official and the unofficial, but especially official, when we could get deep into practice and everything, you can see how every single one of those players is 100% bought into that. And that is awesome. And that is something I want to be a part of and, have my own impact on. And that encourages me a ton, especially in the modern scope of things where so much can be, monetary or very on the surface level. And Boise's so much deeper than that. And starting with Coach D and even Jeremiah Dickey as the AD, it starts at the top and it truly does work its way down to everybody. And, I love that about it. And it's a great fit.
So in our article about you on BroncoNationUpdates.com, you called this offer an answered prayer. Can you expand on, the faith and the family side of making that decision? Like it's well known you had some pretty legit offers out there, but this is an answered prayer for you.
Yeah, it is that. I mean, that's not even like a glorified thing. It was quite literally an answered prayer. Before going on my unofficial a while ago, before being offered and stuff, we had prayed like, hey, God, if Boise is a school you want me to at least just continue to pursue, it'd be, have them throw an offer out. Because at that time it wasn't likely. So it felt like it had to be God if that were the case, because I hadn't thrown yet for Coach Hill or Coach D, but especially Coach Hill is the quarterback guy. I haven't actually, performed for them live. So they're just going on what they could, they can find on social media and, on any sort of camp videos or whatever. So that was their extent of knowing me and being there. They had offered. So I was like, wow, it's quite literally an answered prayer. And we just continue to trust the process, and they got their commits, two very talented guys. So it was like, got to go our separate ways because they got their guys, we have our guys, or we have our own things to do. So ended up working out that way. And then, next thing you know, a week before the official, well, actually during the time my original official would have been, end up losing a guy, and the opportunity shows itself again. So it's funny how God works. God always is on perfect time, not early or late, but, right when he's ready. So it's funny how that worked. And here we are now. So.
You mentioned you had some, or Nick mentioned you had some pretty outstanding offers, just to name off a few. Some SEC schools in here: Vanderbilt, A&M, SMU, Pittsburgh, Oregon, Ole Miss, Minnesota. These aren't no slouch programs. So Georgia, Colorado, some very interesting turndowns in there to choose Boise State, and that just shows you the atmosphere that Boise State brings in. And I'm sure you've connected with some of your other fellow C26 commits coming in with you. What's that vibe been like?
Oh my gosh, it's been awesome. Every one of those guys is so cool. I've spoken to, I'm pretty sure, I think all of them. If not, it's just because I haven't been able to find them on social media yet. But I've at least just, sent out a message or talked to them. Obviously the ones I was on the official with like Sua, who recently committed as a tackle. So I've been able to talk to at least most of those guys, and they're everything that Boise would stand for, that made me commit, was like, they're all into that. And that shows a lot about the coaching staff, that they won't take guys who aren't bought into that. And same thing with Favors, who, Georgia is right there. He goes in his official, and here he is. He's still set on us. So same thing, that says a lot about the program and how we get guys that are committed to this program. So that's really exciting. Honestly, they've been awesome.
Has any of the other 26 recruit guys reached out to you and expressed their, I guess you could say, fandom or excitement to be playing with you, or the opportunity to play with you?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, it's been both ways. I've reached out to guys, and they've done the same with me. So when they saw my commitment on that Saturday, So it's been both ways, and it's been really cool. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, I've been enjoying your interaction with some of these other C26 recruits on the X. So yeah, it's great. And then we've also had we've had a couple commits on our showcase, a few weeks ago that you'll be playing with. I think a couple of them are taking missions, so they'll be back, I think, when you're either still a freshman or sophomore. So and again, they share the same kind of sentiment on how the that culture at Boise State is.
So who should everybody stay, no one transfer out, and no one leave early? Who are you most excited to have the potential to throw a touchdown to in your first game on the Blue?
Oh my goodness, the options are literally insane. We have 2 tight ends, 2-3 receivers. Like literally, any of these guys are, and literally just from talking to them, you can see how excited they are and how bought in they are to this program. And I mentioned Favors, and we have Brecky, who's lived there his whole life, and all that stuff. So there's plenty of options. But these guys, trust me, they're all going to be realistic options when we get here, because they're there for a reason. They're going to be catching some touchdowns. So all of them, genuinely.
Yeah. With Tarius, it's a blessing that he's all as far as we know, he's all in. Like Georgia literally choppered into his school and choppered him over to Georgia. And you know what, that just speaks volumes of what we got going on here on the iconic Blue. Is you got the big dogs rolling out the carpet for you guys, and there's just something very special about Boise, Idaho. So let's pivot once more, and you're a little bit different, and that's perfectly great, because that fits into the built different motto of Boise State. You're planning to minor in music, and you play the violin in the Boise State Orchestra. I don't know if I've ever heard of a D1 quarterback doing that. How rare is that?
I mean, not that it's like anything. I don't want to say it's anything crazy, but I haven't exactly heard of any others. I know guys have a lot of talents in multiple things, but I haven't exactly heard of a violinist. That's a little specific. So I guess that's cool.
So were you first chair, second chair? How did that work?
I mean, so in my orchestra at Thousand Oaks, I'm in it's called like the chamber orchestra. So it's like our higher level of orchestra. And I've been a first violin for us, and I just love it. I played music in some form my whole life, but especially starting really in middle school. And I wanted to play drums, and my mom said, or it was full actually at Oaks Christian, and you had to take a performing art. And I wasn't a dancer or an actor, so I figured to play an instrument. And violin was my second choice, and just kept going with it and realized I enjoy it. And I've actually most recently started to really enjoy it, because I'm starting to really develop a maturity and appreciation for the depths of what music can do for a person. And it's been absolutely amazing. It's been a blessing in my life to have like kind of a third dimension. Like you have sports in school, and now you have music, like this third thing. So yeah, we met on the official. We met with the directors and talked to people there, and we lined up the schedules, and we can make it work. So we're gonna go do that and setting up my audition pieces. So it's gonna be fun.
I have a follow-up question for that. What is your favorite Charlie Daniels song to play, and why is it "The Devil Went Down to Georgia"?
It is definitely "The Devil Went Down to Georgia." And who doesn't love that song? Come on, that is. You think of a fiddle, that's what you think of. So I've actually been working on my fiddling too, because that's a kind of you're always taught in classical music, And that's kind of like, because I love country music. So I've been playing a lot of that and learning it. So it's been fun, like, because I think it fits my everything I love about music and violin. So there'd be more of that.
You know what they say, if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band, and we got Texas State on the schedule now, so we got to fiddle in the huddle.
Stay the away game just an extra day, you know,
Yeah.
hit a dive bar or something.
So we're going to flow into like your role model, but before we do that, I just want to ask you, like, so you know, you got your faith, your family, you got, you know, your musical talent. How does you know, how does that going to feed into your passion and using your platform to inspire others?
I think again, it comes down to, you have to have a set of priorities in your life, and you gotta organize them and stick to them. And I think you can tell a person's what's important to a person based on what they spend their time doing. And that's in anything, not just sports. But, you know, for me, it goes, you know, my faith, my relationship with Jesus, and then it goes football. As much as it should be family, you know, most of my time goes into football. And my family's a part of that too, of course. But, you know, and then it goes to, you know, music or whatever it is. And then all the other rest stuff, and, you know, how you can use your recovery for all these other things. But you have to have those priorities and understand how you need to organize your time. And it's different for everybody. And it's different for me every day sometimes. Like, I don't have this amazingly set routine that I do all the time, but that's just kind of how it's played out. And, you know, whatever I'm spending the most time doing is, you know, what's most important to me. And I try to think every day, you know, what can I do that's building me toward my goal? And, you know, my goal is to play football at the highest level and be the best version that I can of myself, both as a person, but also as an athlete. So it's just directing each day for that.
You have touched on you're a big Tennessee Titans fan, and you have that admiration for Marcus Mariota being a role model for you. What lessons have you taken from him that carries your approach as a leader?
I think Marcus, even though kind of a rival of Boise, being at Oregon, but I think he embodies so much of what Boise represents in terms of, he always cared more about his teammates or his brothers or his family or anybody other than himself first before he worried about himself. He's kind of that like idealistic, perfect, like public model, because, like, you know, he's this guy that never drinks and is never really at the parties, or he's just the good guy hitting in the, you know, standing in the corner waiting to pick his buddies up. Or whatever it is. And, you know, everyone has their own different lifestyles. That's not necessarily what's super important, but the way he cares about others, he's always been, you know, one of the most humble guys I've ever seen, you know, in the football world, along with a few others. And that always inspired me, especially early, because, you know, growing up, and I started to realize at an early age, I was, you know, pretty decent at this thing. I like to make everything about me. And, you know, my parents would always point him out and talk about how, you know, this is how you can be actually at the highest level, way better than I was and am right now, and how you can handle that professionally and maturely. So he embodied all of that, and it inspired me. And obviously he's really talented. I wish he was still, you know, a full-time starter, but I think what he's done has been rewarded rightfully. And I think he's worked really hard, and he's made good money, and, you know, now he gets to make money as a backup and not have to worry about the stresses of getting hurt every day. So it's kind of a win-win. It's a good job in the sports world. So.
Well, so let's look into the future. Like I said, 2026 is a big year for, you know, about Boise State and 7 other teams going into the Pac-12 in 2026, and there may be some more teams. So just keep that in mind. With the addition of Texas State just recently, and then, you know, we got the legacy Pac-12 teams, Oregon State and Wazoo. When you think about stepping on the iconic blue turf, what excites you most about that? opportunity?
I think just being able to be a part of what is such a deep culture is insane, that I have the opportunity to do that. And I'm so grateful for it. To have my own impact on that is, an opportunity that I promise you I won't look at or overlook. I take it very seriously, and I'm very honored, but I know it takes a lot, and it takes a lot up here, and it takes a lot with your body to really dedicate yourself to be prepared to go make an impact out there. And, I promise you I'm 100% ready to do that, and, give that my 100% effort. And I'm excited to be a part of that. I'd love to play in some big games out there. I know they fill it up, and that's what excites me about Boise is, every game is sold out, and we care about Boise football all throughout Idaho. The whole state runs around Boise. So literally it's capital, but in general too. So, no, I'm excited. I'm genuinely blessed to be able to have a small, even right now, a small impact, but hopefully, the biggest one I can as I get there, because it's really a special place.
Yeah, it's an honor just to be a fan, because, Boise State is, in my opinion, it's a global brand. Being in, admin of Bronco Nation updates, I know that we have fans all over the world. And but one of my hopes is for the Pac-12 is the addition of hopefully maybe a Memphis and a Tulane, maybe down the road, Stanford and Cal figure out that all that travel's not very good, and they come back. But in saying all that, the 8 football teams that are in there now, is there, when you get on campus and you start going through the motions, is there a particular game or rival that you're looking forward to play?
Yeah, I would love to see UNLV in there, get the Rebels in there and get them involved. That's starting to turn into a pretty cool thing now. Getting to play them twice last year and everything. So that would be a good one. Obviously, games like Nevada and classic rivalries and stuff that we have going on. Just to be able to, again, following that, having an impact out there and being a part of it, that now, get to go have my own games against these big time schools that, we have history with. So be able to continue to write the history books and put a W in our stat sheet, like we tend to do a whole lot, which excites me. So yeah, I mean, there's not necessarily a game like just dying to play this one team, but I am dying to play, and that's the biggest thing for me. And I know there's a lot of fun games that'll come with that. So yeah, all of those, honestly.
I'm still holding out hope that UNLV will join the Pac-12 too. That is turning out to be a great rivalry, and it's a nice place for fans to visit. Once every other year.
Oh yeah.
Much as I'd love to see that happen too, UNLV just became the flagship program of the Mountain West, so I don't really see that one happening.
At least Mountain West.
Yeah, Mountain West will do everything they can to try and keep them. But let's talk training, shall we? My brother was a quarterback, so I kind of have an idea. I was a wide receiver, so I kind of get the whole quarterback regimen and what it takes to get to that level. He did play briefly at the next level as well. How do you juggle the quarterback specific drills, the school balance, your speed work, all of that? Break down your current training and when school starts up again, how that changes whenever you have to throw school into the balance.
Yeah, like right now we're on our dead period. So this is like this prime 2 weeks to do everything you need to do to enjoy the rest time while you have it, but to also be, intentional with it. And for me, I'll always I try to pair things together where I'm out on the field doing speed stuff one day, that's the same day I'm lifting. And then at night, or when I'm, because it's virtual at night or anytime I can, I'll be meeting with the quarterback coach, Jake Mayer, actually a CFL quarterback for Saskatchewan right now. We'll do film stuff and we'll talk ball and we'll talk Boise and go through the film going through last year. And that way I'm, staying in touch with the mental side of that. And then in terms of throwing, like on a dead period, there'll be a little bit less because letting the arm kind of recover before we get into camp. So it'll be like 2-3 times a week at most. I think I'm throwing like tomorrow. Well, today's a Thursday. I'll throw tomorrow, and then that'll be my last time before Monday where we start at practice again. So that's kind of how it is. And just trying to like earlier is like, what can I do that is going to be helpful for me and get me better in some way? And it takes that to some degree every day, especially as you're about to play the next level, because it's a whole lot different than high school. And I don't even know, I can't even like back up my own words with that yet because I don't fully know it. But from what I've seen and heard, and from a lot of guys who've done that and played at that level, it's different. It's a different game. So I'm just trying to do everything I can in some way to prepare mentally and physically for that.
Yeah. You talked a lot about leadership through resilience. How do you stay centered through all the chaos?
It's just understanding what's really important and how football is a part of your journey, and it has a role, and it's not just to win games. That is very important. None of this, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's not how this works. But though that's very important. It's one part of your life. And for a lot of people, and for actually the playing part, it's only, this 20-year period of your life, pretty much. You're 20 to 30 from when you start as a little kid to when you finish and you retire, however long that is. So, that's what I want it to be for me, and how I can use that for something bigger than myself, and for my faith, and for my family that I want to have, and that I do have with just my parents and my siblings right now, and how that'll eventually grow. But that's what it is, because it's always going to be chaotic. This sport is chaotic. This world is chaotic. So, I got to treat that as something that's not surprising, because there sure is a whole lot of it.
All right, we're gonna do a rapid fire round here to conclude the show. So go ahead and hit him with the first one, Sam.
Blue turf or traditional grass?
Blue turf. What are we here for? Come on now.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
All right, it doesn't belong, but it can be there. I'm not mad at it, but it doesn't belong there.
Favorite post game meal?
Toppers. We got a Toppers right by our school, and that's our home game. So that's what we do.
Nice. Titans quarterback Cam Ward. Why him?
He's the GOAT. No, I mean, just because he's everything. Again, he's like all this stuff Boise does that just translates, because he's such a people first, works his butt off, works his butt off in silence. He doesn't need to be out and showboating about it. And he's preparing himself. And honestly, I think I see there's a lot of similarities. He's not like this oversized guy. Obviously, we look a lot alike. But he's really just like this perfect like representation of what I want a Titans quarterback to be as a fan, and what I want to be as a player. And I think he does that very well.
In favorite non-quarterback NFL player?
Derrick Henry, ex-Titan. Miss him.
All right.
You have some roots in basketball. Do you have a favorite team or player?
Yeah, I've always been a Warriors fan, and I jumped on the bandwagon when I was younger, but I always was a Warriors fan from when they were good, and now I am still, even if they aren't as good. And that was always run through Steph Curry, and I thought I was going to be an undersized little shooter, and here I am now. Not exactly that, but I can still ball a little bit. So,
well, and then I always ask all of our guests this question. Do you have a message for Bronco Nation, or encouragement to whoever's watching the show, maybe in the same path as you, but what do you want to say to Bronco Nation, or an encouragement to others?
I would just want them to know that they're, especially with everybody in this 26 class, that they are getting a group full of guys that is 100% bought in to what we stand for, and that understands what it means to be a Bronco and what it means to play on that turf, and that they're ready to do everything they're in their power to be successful. From all these guys that I've talked to, and knowing some of them more personally than others, and we're bought in and we're excited and we're ready to go be Broncos from when it hits that signing day, and we can finally make sure everyone who's there is 100% in, which I believe everyone is. It's go time, and we're ready to get it going. So that's what I got. Go Broncos.
So thank you, Sam, for co-hosting this with me. Appreciate you. Thanks, Jackson, for being a blessing, both in the written form on the website and then also on the show. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully you'll be able to join us in the 2026 recruiting showcase that we'll be doing next May, prior to the recruits stepping on campus. We'll do another Bronco Nation Live like we did in 2025. So hopefully you can make that. But Bronco Nation, thank you for watching the show. As always, remember, we have a heart of a champion, and always, always bleed blue. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Hi, I'm Ron Dorn. I'm president of Blue Elevation. A lot of you have probably heard of it in other sites like Bronco Nation Updates, and I just want to talk a little bit about Boise State football and what we're trying to do to help move the team forward. It's a lot of fun to work with them, but as you know, with the upheaval in college football and the NIL money, we're always needing more, and we're trying to do that by giving more news to you than you can get in other sources, and events that you might be able to attend. And we would just love to see your support, additional support for Boise State, so we can take this to the next level, especially moving into the Pac-12. I see such a bright future for us by doing this. For those of you that are as old as I am, you remember when we had wooden bleachers and we did rodeos in the stadium, and we had good coaches and we were doing the best we can with what we had. These coaches need that continuated support to make it happen for us. You can see what we've done with what little we've had, but we really need the help, and we just need the commitment, and we need you to get involved with us to push the Boise State program forward. Again, especially going to the Pac-12, and especially the futures out there, and what the basketball team is doing, the women's softball team is doing, and some other sports that I follow. We just want to keep you involved and focused and helping us out any way that you can do that to support our university.